let's jump right into question 7. I'm going to have to do something now. I realise that. I'm going to go in as a student. That way we can check my answers. Open student view. There we go. Close that guy off. And here we are. So I hope once this loads up that you are now looking at question 7. Agreed? Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. And we're just finishing off this last section. Going to do probably about 3 more questions, including this one. And then we'll start talking about the final. And then tomorrow we can revise. So a study was conducted in which sedentary men, that's couch potatoes to me and you, were randomly selected and assigned to be placed on a diet or on an exercise for a year to lose weight. So they're going to see whether diet or exercise, which one of them is best at losing weight. Obviously, a combination of them would be even better, but that wasn't the choice. So I'm writing down these numbers. They have 43 men, and they were placed on the diet. So I'm going to call diet group 1. Hopefully they do as well. And the other 48 were done on exercise. So N2 is 48, and 2, I'm going to call them exercise. And continue with the story. The group on the diet lost an average 7.3 kilograms, which is about just over 15 pounds. And those, and the standard deviation for that group was 3.3. And those on the exercise, they lost less, that's 4.1 kilograms. And the standard deviation for that group was 3.5. Okay, so that's basically all the numbers that we need. We're now going to do the questions. State and test a hypothesis, right? Oh, better read on. State the null and alternate hypothesis to determine whether the mean weight loss would be different under the 2 routines for the population. And so it looks to me like they used the word different here. And so that tells me, well, I already know what the null is because it's always the same thing in these questions. It's mu 1 take away mu 2.
You have to press the over bar after the
Oh, thanks for catching that. Right. If you can hear it at the back, my dogs are barking because there's a leaf falling somewhere. Okay, come on, cooperate. Take away. Oh no. Move over. Take away. God, it's pernickety, isn't it? Right, there we go. And what should this be equal to?
0.
Always 0, right? For the ones we do, always 0. So even if you didn't read that question, I would be writing that down, wouldn't I? No matter what the proof was. Now, they went and said would be different. So I'm going to assume that when they say would be different, that becomes that they're not equal to, right? If they'd said one was bigger or less, I would have chosen that. So that might be where your problem is, right here. So we're going to do a not equals to, and that means we have to do that funny code exclamation mark equals 0 to do that.
Yeah, so I did the whole question, but the only thing I got wrong was the test statistic.
Okay, let's find out the test statistic then. We'll go here. Okay, I'm going to have to go and see what's making those 2 little buggers join in. Hold on. Hey! Cut it!
Well, that's what an angry Scot sounds like.
Hey!
Maybe an annoyed Scott.
Come on.
Better term.
There's nothing to bark at, but I want to show you this. Doesn't look very impressive. You see that little ball? That was a brand new collar that Celeste bought for her yesterday. And she's found it and chewed it to death. So there's $5. I think it was $5 and it wasn't expensive.
Well, that's the cause of the ruckus.
I don't know why she's still barking.
Probably wants it back, huh?
She's not getting it back. All right, so 2 sample t-test. I'll put in the mean, which was 43. No, it wasn't. I'll put in the mean, which is 7.3. The standard deviation was 3.3. And the sample size here was 43. And the next one was a 4.1. A standard deviation of 3.5. I'm assuming you did the same kind of thing with the numbers that you got. And the sample size was 48. Right, so that's pretty much all the information that you had about the people who went on a diet. And this is all information about those who did the exercise. It's going to be a 0 and a not equal to. And they've got a little button down here called assume equal variance. I didn't see anything in that story that talked about them being equal, but let's see. Oh, used an unpooled test. That's what we call that. So if you don't click on that, we are good. Generate results. I'm going to get this guy as my T statistic. So let's copy it and put it in here. And I'm going to get this very small p-value, which is good news. And I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it in here. And then I'll do the accuracy to 2 decimal places. That becomes 49. And to 4 decimal places, that's basically 0. Okay, time to check the answers. It didn't like it. Let's try 48. I mean, I might have rounded in the wrong direction. Okay, let me look at it. How hard is it to do that guy?
I got it right after I clicked on the assume equal variances button.
And they went and told us here, oh, they told us to use a pool test. I've read that as don't use a pool test. Okay. Assume equal variance just means you're pulling the data. I wish they'd just used that phrase, but they hadn't. There is our guy. That looks like the same number. We check it.
Thank God I got it right on my last try now. Thanks,
Whoa,
David.
did you do the pool thing as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I didn't know use a pool test, so that means use the
there it goes, yeah.
that
Yeah,
means
so if they say use a pool test,
yeah.
what they're saying here in their way of saying things is equal variance. Equal variance is just what happens if you think that the 2 samples are variances are probably the same, then you do a kind of pooled variance. It just basically means you put all the data into one big bucket and the software will take care of it. You should only assume that if you see the phrase use a pool test, or if they said use equal variance, or if the data had both numbers identical. So if this number here, where is it, the standard deviation, this one, was actually the same number as the other guy's standard deviation, right? So you see in this case, it's 3.5 and 3.3. If they were both 3.5, I would probably assume equal variance as well. they're going to use that phrase because they like that phrase, I guess. Right. Well, that was secure. Now, would you agree that that p-value is definitely less than 0.05? So that means that we're going to reject H naught, okay? And that means that it's sufficient evidence to claim that mean loss weight would be different under the two routines. And then you fill in, you know, the missing cents. Are we comfortable about that one? Right, let's look at this one. Would you agree these standard deviations are not the same? And would you agree that there's no mention of pooling data anywhere? So we're just going to assume this is a classic question where you don't do anything too spectacular. I think this one was the one that, who was it that did it with us? Cheyenne, is this the one that we were looking at earlier? Lost you, Cheyenne, can you hear me? Audio's dead, okay. You might not have known this, but do you know that people in Pennsylvania don't sleep as much as those in California? Perhaps. And so this person collected, actually it's the other way around, collected 175 people and found out that the average that the student slept for was this number, that this was the standard deviation. And for Pennsylvania, it was a little bit more. Okay. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here. Since that is a pain in the butt to copy or to write from scratch, can't I just do that and save myself a minute? Now I'm going to put this one in as well. And let's see what we're trying to prove now. Is there sufficient evidence to conclude that the mean number of hours slept are different? Oh, so we are talking about yet another not equals to, right? And we are talking about who the parameters are, and that's the number of hours each group's sleeps. And then are the necessary conditions met? Okay.
So we don't have to do the square root of the standard deviation squared divided by the number.
Now you are going to do it using salt. Saves a whole load of trouble, right? Now, if you've done it by hand, you found out it was the same number, so that was a good check, wasn't it? Right. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to have to jump around here with the numbers, but here goes. I'll try and write down one group. So it's 6.96, 1.73, and 175. So I'm putting in the Californian data first. And so in the Californian data, 6.96, a standard deviation of 1.73, and there was 175 people who did that. And then in the second group, oh wait, did I do something wrong?
There's an extra 7 in the mean for that one.
Oh God, look at that. Thank you. And the second group was a 7.16, a 1.97, and 192. So I'll put those one in for the Pennsylvania people. If I remember, I don't think there was enough difference to be any evidence. There was no mention in that story of pulling the data or doing anything, so I'm kicking that off. That's the normal default position, not to use it. And then generate results. And I have a T statistic, which is that guy. And I have a p-value, which is very unimpressive. It's quite big. That guy. And rounding off to 2 decimal places, That gets me a 4. Oops. And rounding off to 4 decimal places, 1, 2, 3, that 8 turns into a 9. Okay, let's do a check on that before we go any further. Everything working fine, right? Everything agrees? Okay, and you get the usual evidence. Is there enough to fail to reject H naught? You're going to fail to reject H naught, aren't you? Because isn't that number not smaller than 0.05? And which one of the two fails is the correct one? Yeah, there is insufficient evidence, so it's the bottom one that we use. And this question here, it talks about, is there any actions required? And the one I'm picking is no. There, that one. Since that test shows that there's a lack of evidence, right? There's nothing to see here, then they shouldn't do anything about it. And our final question. Right, in this story, they really cut it down to the bare knuckles, right? They just told you the stuff. And they basically ask you, would you reject it or not? So obviously, you've got a 50-50 chance of guessing it. We'll do that in a
Since the
second.
test shows lack of evidence is not correct.
Well, if it says not correct, you pick the other one, right?
Yeah.
So it's not,
So
that's not going to kill you. Let's get the right answer then. So this is data that was collected about what's the fastest you've ever driven. And the first one, which is the females, the average for the fastest they've driven is 88.5 miles per hour. The standard deviation was 14.3. And in that sample, it was 101 females that they checked with. And in the second group, which is the males, the mean is 107.5. The standard deviation was 17.2. And the number in that sample was a slightly less number, it's 86. Right, just looking at the raw data, which is women on average 88, guys on average, the fastest I've ever done is about 107, 108. I'm going to bet a penny, because I'm not a good gambler, that men are going to be bigger than women. Would you agree that there's statistically probably strong evidence that that is true? So, assuming that these represent all college students, test whether the mean of the fastest driven, oh, the little darlings, look at what they just did there. Males and females scores is equal versus the alternate that it's higher for the males. Now, bear that in mind, that 1 is females and 2 is males. Bear that in mind. Right, let's do the use salt. 2 sample. This is the women data, 88.5. The standard deviation was 14.3. The number in that group was 101. Now sample 2 is the men. They're 107.5. 17.2 is the standard deviation. And there was slightly less, 86 in that group. That's always 0. Now the choice. Less than or greater than? We want to prove that men are going faster than women. But women is the first data and men is the second. So is that less than 0 or greater than? Your 50-50 chance of guessing?
or less than? Since
It is less than. That's the English language problem, isn't it? I'm bigger than you, you're smaller than me. It's the same thing, but it's how you want to phrase it. They've said, prove that the guys are bigger than the males. Well, isn't that the males are smaller than the guys? So first takeaway, second is negative. Now, if you did it the other way around, which I'm going to do in a moment, just to show you how screwed up the answer would be, we'll assume that nothing special is going on. Can you see the t statistic is really nice and big and negative? And can you see the p-value is tiny, which is really good evidence? If I had done greater than, which is the wrong way around, the test statistic doesn't care, because that's going to be the same no matter what it is. But can you see the p-value?
Is that as big as a p-value can get? Is
Yeah.
no greater than 1?
You can't make it, it can't be worse
Oh,
than
100?
1. 1 means you're going to be wrong 100% of the time. So at least you're consistently wrong, a bit like our politicians, right? Consistently wrong. I had to get that dig in. Right, so let's return back to the correct direction. Right. So this is going to be our t-score. Oh, I don't need to copy that. Would you agree that this p-value is definitely less than 0.05? And when it is definitely less, doesn't that mean you reject the null? And so that's the one you pick. Are we good or are we good? Oops. Oh, the wee Baba is up to see you.
No, we're not going
Yes.
to color on those.
Okay, let's move on. I'm going to just mute it a little bit. There we go. Now, let's talk a little bit about the big picture to do with the test. And we're kind of finished, right? There's nothing new. You've done everything that you need to know. So that's good, right? One less thing to worry about. Let's get this out. When is the final?
Thursday.
Okay. And Thursday is the 16th of June. Somebody different. So you're not allowed to answer. Somebody different. When is it happening? What's the time slot?
10 a.m. to 1.
You got it. And if you forget, where do you go look?
The syllabus.
The syllabus, right? You'll find it in there. Now, we are going to have a special Zoom link. It's not online yet. It probably won't be online until the weekend to put together a little package. But essentially, there's going to be one module. It'll be called something like Math 146 Final Exam Information. It's probably the name I'll give it to it. And in that, I'll put everything that you need to worry about. But let's tell you a little bit about your final exam. First thing to tell you is that it's all on Canvas, meaning that all your questions are going to be on Canvas. But some of those questions will be using SALT. So when you go to WebAssign, there's only going to be one assignment, I guess you'd call it. And that assignment is just going to be some random question that's got a SALT button on it. That's just so you can hit SALT. So everything's going to be in Canvas, right? There'll be a PDF with all your questions. And then some of those questions, you know, like the one we just did a minute ago, right? That kind of question or something like it. You would go to SALT to do all the number crunching, write down the answers and, you know, move on. Now, it's going to be in 2 parts. The first part is section 1. And that's going to be 10 multiple choice questions. And they're going to be at 5 points each. And that's going to get you 50 points. So far, so good. And then there's, in section 1, all I will get from you when you do, because you're going to take pictures like in the midterm and send it to me, this is all I will see. You'd write your name down, although you technically don't need that, but it makes my life easier if you do it. And then you would do question 1 is A, question 2 is C, question 3 I don't know, but I feel lucky, so I'm picking B, right? Question 10, A, right? That's all I will see for section 1. I won't see working, don't want to see it. It won't make any difference if I do see it. So make your life and my life easier by just doing it and not copying it. And then you will do section 2. So that was section 1. And section 2 is also going to have 10 questions, but they're going to be on average 25 points each, although some will be 20 and some will be 30. And that adds up to the other 250 points. So your final is out of 300 points. Now in section 2, I will, at least in those questions that don't require salt, right, I will expect you to do working, right? And some questions might ask you to do working. So I might say to you, you know, calculate the standard error and show me the working for it, right? I'll make it clear when I would expect you to show me the working. In other questions, it will be just go into salt and write down all the numbers that come from it, right? And that's fine. So not all
How much of
questions.
our grade is the final?
Say again, Cheyenne?
How much of our grade is the final?
30% of your grade. So it can make or break you. So if you're not doing really good, but you have a great final, it can bump you up a lot, right? So it's a good thing to be really prepared for. So there are going to be 10 questions. Show me as much working as you can, because there's partial credit. You know how WebAssign, you get it wrong. Cody, do you see that question you were talking about where, you know, you didn't put the pooled? You know, WebAssign, don't they just give you a big fat 0, right?
Yeah.
Because
So
I
if I
can do
showed my
part,
work like that, if I showed my work and I still got it wrong, I would still get partial because I did the
Yeah.
right step, but I just didn't.
yes, all you would lose is not picking one box out of the whole process, right? So let's say that question was worth 10 points, right? You get 9, because the only thing you didn't do correct was the pooled bit, and that wasn't that clear. Although if I was wanting you to do it, I would definitely make sure, because I would say pull the data in a very clear way in the sentence. So if I don't say it, don't do it. And they're going to be 10 of those questions, as I've said, on
What's the
average
time limit?
25 points. And the whole exam is going to take you 3 hours. And then when it's finished, you have another 30 minutes to like tidy up your last question, but most of that should be used to copy your work onto, you know, upload it, take a picture, copy it, upload it into Canvas. You know, the assignment like you did in the midterm, the same kind of thing, right? Let me show you. I don't think I've got that handy, but I do have something from another class, and yours will be like it. So let me show you.
Onto the Microsoft Lens.
Yeah, that would be the one I would use. If you've got something else that you prefer, that's fine. Right. Right. Are you looking at my Math 142 class here? This is basically what yours is going to look like. Don't worry about these 3 things because you don't have them, right? But if you need a lens, there's a little link to it. Now, if you click on this, you go, hit that guy, upload file, choose file, pick the one you want, pick that one, and submit, right? It's as quick as that. So you can watch this video and pause that and watch me doing it slowly, but that's essentially it. So you should have done that before, so hopefully that's not a biggie. So section 10, 10 questions. General advice I give to all my students. Section 1 should take you less than 5 minutes. Most questions, it's probably couple of minutes, right? 3 minutes. So if you are going to have to do a lot of work, if you think, oh, to do that, I'm going to have to draw a graph, and then I'm going to have to figure out something, and then I'm going to have to do something after that, you're doing it wrong. Right? Multiple choice should be quick. Now, multiple choice could use salt. You know, I could give you a question where you just go into salt and tell me the p-value, right? Could be that. Whatever it is, it should be quick. And if you think it's going to be long, you're wrong. So why don't you pick C or B or your lucky letter of the alphabet and call it good? Because there's no point wasting time. For section 2, I know there's 10 questions. I've already mentioned that. They're in chronological order. So the first question that you're likely to see will be from week 1. And the last question you're likely to see is from what we've done this week, right? Week 10. And that's true
Will
in
the,
section 1 and 2.
I'm sorry, will the question layout be similar to what we've seen on the homework or similar to what we've seen on the tests?
Tests, I would say.
Okay.
Midterm especially, because you know how I phrase things. Hopefully I phrase things a little bit clearer as well. Are we good? Now, let's suppose you're doing section 2, because this is more likely to be the case. There is no reason in the world why you need to do them in the order question 1, 2, 3. Psychologically, there's going to be, because there always is, a question that you thought, oh God, I forgot to check that. I thought I knew it, but now I don't. You could spend easily, couldn't you, half an hour footing about doing all sorts of things and just getting frustrated. And let's pretend it was question 3. Don't do it in order. Why don't you do questions 8, 9, and 10 first? Because aren't they freshest in your brain and you know what they're like? Now, all you need to do is do them on either a separate bit of paper, you know, 8, 9, 10 all together, or whatever you want to call it, right? And then you can like shuffle the cards when you're finished and put them in order when you take the picture. And there are 2 advantages, in my opinion, for why you should do that. Psychologically, aren't you going to feel a lot better if you've got 3 or 4 questions that you're pretty comfortable with and you know they're right? And see this horrible number 3? Shouldn't that be the last question you ever do? That way you can spend as much time figuring out something. You know, maybe get it half right, but that gets you half the points, right? Because you get partial credit. And it'll feel a lot nicer. Otherwise, you spend half an hour, get nowhere, get frustrated, start second guessing yourself, and you screw up. You're just in the wrong frame of mind. We don't want to be in the wrong frame of mind, right? So do the good stuff first and the horrible stuff last. That would be my advice. No reason to do it in order. That's that. What else? I talked about a half hour. Check. Oh, Sunday, I'll say it again because who knows who's missing any given day, is a drop dead date for all assignments. No extensions. If it ain't finished by Sunday midnight, it ain't finished. And I want you to make sure that you're well aware of that. So don't send me an email saying, I don't know, my car broke down and I couldn't make it home in time. It's too late. You should have been prepared. You should have done it on Saturday. Right, so make sure it's all done. Monday evening, late, maybe midnight, I will send you out your last report. And your last report, because you've done everything that you're ever going to do, I'll be able to tell you exactly what your grade is. And I'll also give you how many points in the final you need to get a 2.0, what you need to get a 3.0, and what you need to get a 4.0. They are the key markers. And that'll give you an idea before the final where you need to be, right? Oh, I only need 120. Okay, I feel a lot better now, right? I only need 120 to pass 11. I think I'm like, ask me stuff. I can't think of anything else I
feel like that's
need to
going to
tell
put
you.
more pressure on me.
I want you to put more pressure on you. Is that what you asked me to
Perfect.
do? Okay, then I'm going to fail you unless you do really well in this final. Is that enough pressure?
No, because I think I got like an 82%, but then it's gonna be like you need to get a fucking 3.5 on this. Taking it,
Language.
oh, sorry, excuse my language. So if you don't get it more than a 2.0, do we have to retake it next quarter?
No, 2.0 is a pass. And
No, I know. So
even,
if we go,
even better than that, because this is a terminal math class, what that means is this class counts as the math box. You know, you have to tick an English box and you have to graduate. Since this counts as a terminal math class for some of you, you can get a 0.7 and it counts as a pass for graduation purposes. So it can be
Oh,
even
nice.
lower than a 2.0. And so a 0.7 is, God in Himmel, 10, 20, 30, 40. I'm trying to figure out in my brain how many points that is, but it's like something like another 50 points you could not get in your final and still pass.
I just wish I didn't take so many notes because I feel like I just wrote down whatever you wrote down. Now I just got a whole book and a half full of notes.
All right, well, I would advise you to go through your notes and maybe have 2 sets of notes. The
I
first
feel
one
the
is that,
absolute same way. I have.
right? So have your book, right? Have that thing, right? But that's I'm only going there if I can't find it, right? And then have your little list. So in my book, your little list would be, have all the key formulas, right? The standard error formulas, and maybe a little picture of the, you know, the 68, 95, 99.7 rule. What other things? Z-scores.
Wait, so what's the difference? There's a something margin of error, then there's conventional margin of error.
There's a conservative margin of error, which is 1 over the square root of n.
Okay.
So that, I mean, that takes a line, right? That won't take up pages, right? And then the other margin of error, it depends if it's a proportion or if it's a mean, but isn't it that 1.96 times the standard error? Hi. Or a 1.645 or a 2.58. Hi, little guy. Your dad is. Hurt me. What was that you said? Don't hurt me.
Said Coco hurt him, our dog.
What did Coco go and do? Did he bite you?
No, don't hurt me.
Scratched you?
Yeah.
Scratched him. Because
Well,
he likes to shake and then he's short, so when he shakes, it hits him in the face.
Well, he
Yeah.
didn't mean it. I'm sure your
Okay.
dog didn't mean it.
It was a JK.
Hey, Mr. Robertson.
Yes.
So I know you have finals throughout the week next week, but
Yes.
are you gonna have office hours on Monday or something?
Yes.
So that we can, like, if we wanted to know like what our score was on the test before we get the grade report and want to know like what we did wrong, we would be able to answer.
We'd be able to do that, right? Good point. Let's talk about Monday. Tomorrow is a normal school day, and we're going to go over whatever topics you want, right? So Monday's just revised for the final. Sorry, Friday is revised, and I expect you to be here on Friday to do that. Monday is open-ended, as all my classes. So on Monday, you can just turn up if you want to. If you don't, you'll be given attendance. But if you turn up, you might just want to turn up to find out how to do the empirical rule, right? Which is, you know, that funny little picture with the 68, 95, and so on. And once you've got that, you're done. Because over the weekend, I expect you're going to be spending a fair amount of time, I hope, getting ready for your final. And then on Monday, you'll drop in and say, well, I need help on this, and then I'm good, and you leave. So Monday,